To me, weather is a very important part of an RPG game. However, I do feel sometimes it gets used just for very simple dressing for your RPG games, and it can really bring your world's culture to life and how the environment is acting. I've created a system using a deck of cards to articulate and illustrate how you can use weather more in your game to bring it to life. It's a little complicated, so let's get into it. Welcome to Solitary RPG. This video is going to be a bit on the rambling side. Uh, I want to capture your attention and share something that I created in a system that I'm using to help track weather, more of a global calendar or world calendar, just to help you bring not just the environment of your RPG world to life, but the culture that lives within your environment. I'm just going to kind of jump into it. One of the things I like about a deck of playing cards is that there's 52 of them, and there's 52 weeks in a year. And I use playing cards to help me with big projects. When I'm working on something that has many, many steps, I will take a playing card, I will set a goal for what this playing card represents for the week, and then I'll keep this playing card with me in my pocket notebook or in my wallet as a reminder that this is a goal that I'm working on this week and this is what I'm trying to accomplish. So this is one of the things I use playing cards for outside of gaming. I also feel we can use playing cards to help us keeping track of days in our RPG games and also the seasons in our games. I feel seasons in an RPG game can bring your world to life and your cultures of the people that your PCs are interacting with to life. I don't think we give the seasons as much credit as they should in RPG games and everything that can be associated with seasons. Let me share my thoughts about the seasons first, and then I will talk more about this chart or this table that I've created to help you track everything. If we stop and look at real life and we look at the seasons, we see how people's behaviors change from season to season. In the wintertime, people are a little bit more isolated to their homes because it's cold outside. For some of you, there's snow outside. For us in Arizona, it's just dirt. But it's still cold outside, and people are less active and they don't go out. So when you look at your RPG world and you're looking at the cultures and the people that are in your world and the animals that are in your world, everyone's pretty much staying isolated to their homes. They're staying in their towns and villages. Animals are not out wandering as much, so your wildlife is not as plentiful. Most people are living on food that they've saved through the fall, and that is what they're surviving on. So you're not seeing fresh fruit and vegetables at markets. You're seeing more preserves. So in the wintertime, cultures shift, cultures change, the way people behave changes. Then comes springtime, the snow melts, so your rivers are flowing higher because of all the snow that's melting. Animals are becoming more active and they're breeding. So when you're looking at encounters in your wilderness explorations, and we can take a mundane, normal animal like a bear, a deer, a wolf, or you can even take your fantasy animals like a dire wolf, goblins, any kind of reptilian creatures that you may come across. Chances are they are breeding, and there's probably a mate with them when you come across them, depending on the species. So when you have those encounters in the springtime, you might want to randomize to see if there's another one. Also, when you come across a female. Like you want to randomize, is this a male or a female? They may be more protective. They could be pregnant, feeling vulnerable, so they're more out for either running away or attacking if they're cornered. A male will definitely be more aggressive, protecting a female. If they already had their offspring, now that's a whole nother challenge because they are going to fight to the very bitter end to protect their offspring. So you can take this information based on a season that we experience in real life and import it into your fantasy world to help bring your world just a little bit more immersion into the world that can help bring that to life as well. Going into spring a little bit more, people are going to be out to traveling. The farm fields are going to be getting plowed and they're going to start planting seeds for the next harvest. So you got to look at all these things. The activity in the springtime is a lot higher. Chances of encountering people, travelers, everything increases. So that's a good way of bringing your world to life based on the season itself. Then you get into summertime, depending on where you're at in your world. Is it a desert climate or is it a woodland climate? But the summertime, it gets hotter. So water becomes more of an important factor because you're sweating more and you may not want to wear your armor. So you want to put that into your world, bringing it to life. Someone walking around in plate mail when it's over 100 degrees outside, probably unlikely. That's going to be like living in a little bit of an oven as you're walking and the sun's beating down on you. So you may want to take that into consideration in your world. Also, you're going to come across, offspring. So you're going to find more baby animals out on their own in the summertime, exploring and learning how to survive in your world. So when you come across a bear, you might want to randomize. Is this offspring? Is this a baby or did I come across a full grown bear? Because that could change how your PCs respond to that animal. And then we roll into fall. People are celebrating the good harvest or they're commiserating a bad harvest. But you can add that harvest in because that's the food that's going to sustain them through the winter. And I just think that's important information. Weather shouldn't be just hindering travel and just leave it at that. Take your weather and really add it to your world. Take real examples from society that we live in, import it, and just use that as a mechanism to bring your RPG culture and the environment to life so that it adds more immersion to your world. One of the things that turns me off about a hex crawl is we roll a dice, we move to another spot, we find something, a ruined building or a rock with a thing painted on it, and that's pretty much all we're doing. We're just kind of trudging through, or we may get lost or something, but if you know it's springtime, that can change your encounters on that exploration. If you know it's wintertime, that might lessen your chances of even finding an encounter. So you can really add those seasons to your world to just really bring it to life. So that's my philosophy or my thoughts behind using the seasons to bring your world to life. This is a draft of how I'm taking all this information and I'm using it as a tracking mechanism for my games. First thing is there's 52 weeks in a year. I've broken down each season by a suit in the deck of cards. So this is the club. So if we pull a card, 10 of clubs, this would put us in a November fall transition month. And I'll talk about the transition part of this afterwards. But this would just put you in a week. So I'm still following a lot of the modern day concepts behind a calendar. So I still have 12 months, and each week is made up of 7 days. You pull your card, that puts you in your season and what week you're starting at. As you play your game, you're tracking days during your game already. You can just be checking them off every time there's it's nighttime, you wake up the next day, you're in the next day, and you're literally tracking your world or your player's game on a calendar, and the season can change while you're playing. And I think that's just a more immersive way to play your RPG games, giving you that way of tracking the weather as you play. It's just not like we're just going to be in wintertime in this whole campaign. Yeah, it's up to you. You can do that. But I just think this adds a little bit more of that immersion to your system. So that's how the cards work. There is this, what I call transition. So for the most part, the months are made up of 4 weeks. However, transition months have a fifth week in it. Whenever you pull a king, so if you pull the king of clubs, that would represent a transition week. And what a transition week is, and we've all experienced this, weather's unpredictable. If you're transitioning from winter to spring, like we are right now, some mornings are cold, some mornings aren't. Sometimes you get a late snow, sometimes you get an early summer. It's that transitioning between seasons. And this is where I think most of your celebrations might take place in your world, celebrating the next season, getting ready for or preparing for that next season. So this is a good way, like in the fall during this transition months, this is where people are going to be really busy celebrating the harvest and putting all their food in preserves and trying to get everything packaged up and put into the root cellars and all that kind of stuff to get ready for wintertime. So this is a transition week. And you obviously you have 4 seasons, so you have 4 transition weeks. What else you can put on this chart? I've made it so that you can put a world timeline. So when you're playing your game, if something happens in the world, doesn't necessarily affect your adventure at the moment, but this is a world event. Maybe there's a new uprising or there's a war in the south or the east that is an important battle, and maybe it will later on have an effect in your game, but right now it's not. But there's like a world event, or maybe there's a collapse of a kingdom or something like that. Something you can just make a note here. That's why I've added all these lines, is you can just make short little notes on this front side. On the back side, I've given more space to document these notes, but on your front side, you can just make little notes. Just as you're playing your game, something comes up. When we're playing, especially solo, we get these creative spurts and we come up with ideas that may not fit within the game at the moment, but maybe something we want to explore later. We got a place to note it down, and you got a timeline when this event took place. So you're kind of keeping track of when certain things are happening. It's just a neat way of keeping track of everything. Got local timeline events, so now we're narrowing or we're focusing in to the region we're playing in or the kingdom we're playing in, and we've narrowed that down. We can document some timeline information in that kingdom. And then I've left a lot of space here for the PCs because they're going to be the ones that you're most focused on in your game. So things that happen to your PCs during certain points in your game or your campaign, and you can kind of track them, like when did this happen to so and so, and you got it kind of documented. And then when we flip this over, I've just added a spot here on the backs to really focus in on those details. The world events, if you want to add more information about the world events that took place. Weather events, don't discount weather events in your games. When there's a heavy rain, you're rolling on a chart and you get like heavy rain, very negative. Well, let's document that during this, and maybe this creates a seasonal event, don't know, or it creates a tragedy for this region. Maybe the rain is so bad it floods out the crops, and now later on that town, village, or that area has no food to get them through the winter, and maybe that creates an adventure seed for your party to help them get food to get them through the winter. So take those weather events, especially when we roll on these random charts and we get these really bad results. Let's document that, and you can actually use that as an adventure seed for your games. Resource events could be natural resources such as water, or it could also just be food resources. Maybe certain areas, wildlife just disappears, and you just want to document, like, during this time, wildlife disappears. Well, why does it disappear? Could they go off to go do something else, like they're migratory animals? or are they being kind of removed by an evil force? So look at resources in certain regions, and you can use those as adventure seeds. And these are all things that you roll up as you're playing your games, and you're just documenting this down so that way you're kind of bringing your world to life. Cultural and religious events. These types of events are a little bit bigger, celebrated more across regions, even globally, depending on your world. So you may want to document during certain seasons or during certain times, certain religious events or cultural events take place. I'll go back to the harvest during the fall, during that November month. Everybody's celebrating, and there's a lot more cheer in the air because people have food to get them through the winter. They're thankful. Maybe they're having big feasts in villages and towns, and people are just celebrating. You can make events around those, and you can document when those take place. So if you take all of your notes and you play in it, if you run another game, you have things already in place, so you're not recreating stuff that you've already created once before. Adversary events. Most games, you have an adversary. You have a purpose. You're doing, you're playing your game for a reason. You can document when your adversary does certain things. Maybe there's certain battles that take place. Maybe there's certain accomplishments that your adversary has created, like they took over a certain thing, they captured someone. Whatever your adversary is doing, you can document when those things took place, just so you have it on record, so that you can continue building your world and just making it come to life. You can do the same thing for your PCs. Maybe a PC dies in your party, you can document when that happened. Maybe a PC fell in love, and you can document that when it happened. It's just a place to write more notes about everything that's going on in your world. So this is my draft copy of this that I'm working on. I've been using the card system for my RPG games for some time now, just to give me a starting point in the seasons. And that's pretty much all I've been using it for. I've just taken it to that next level. How you can use your seasons to really bring your world to life, bring the culture of the people in your world to life, and documenting that information. I think it's an important part. And you can use this, once you've gone through and you've created a lot of this information, you can use it for other campaigns. It doesn't have to just be for one campaign or one game session. You can always come back and use this information over and over again. It just puts everything in one place. When I'm playing my RPGs and I'm in those creative flow and things are happening, and I'm writing stuff down and taking notes, and then it just gets lost after the game. Yeah, I'll have the memory of certain things, but for the most part, some of that information just gets lost. This just puts it into one document, so that way I can refer back to it for future games, especially when you get those really creative moments where maybe you create a festival and you give it a great name and all that fun stuff, and you can just document it. And now you know when it's going to take place, and you can just import those little bits of information into other campaigns or in other game sessions that you're having. It's just a good way of keeping track of it. This is just a draft form. I haven't formally used this document yet. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. This is what I created. I just feel it's important for people to bring the seasons and how the world and the culture changes during those different seasons to help bring your games more to life, and also change how some of your encounters are going to take place and what you're going to encounter. Wintertime, you're probably not going to encounter as many reptile type creatures, but in spring, they're going to be coming out. They're going to be a little sluggish, just like bears are a little sluggish when they come out of hibernation. And then they start getting really hungry and they want to go eat. So you may want to make that part of your game session. And when it's springtime and you come across the bear, it might just want to eat you. So that's what I wanted to share in this video. Just some thoughts and kind of an understanding of how we can take some things that we experience in real life and port them into our RPG games to help bring our RPG games more to life and just add a little bit more immersion. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. Bye.